There comes a moment in every life when the burden gets too heavy to carry. You smile in front of others, but your heart is quietly breaking. You lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, God, do you see me? Do you even care? You've done everything you know how to do. You've prayed, you've worked, you've worried, and still the breakthrough hasn't come. Still the door stays closed, still your heart remains heavy. But what if this, right here, is the place where God begins to move? What if surrender isn't a sign of weakness, but the key to your peace? God never asked you to carry it all. He never designed your shoulders to hold the weight of the world. He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That's not a suggestion. That's a promise right now. Whatever you're going through, whoever you've lost, whatever you're fearing, it's time to take a deep breath and let go. Let go of the need to control everything. Let go of the fear of what might happen. Let go of the pressure to hold it all together, and in its place, trust, not blind trust, but real faith in a God who has never failed and never will. You see, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it won't take you anywhere. But trust. Trust builds bridges over deep waters. It brings rest in the middle of chaos. It turns "why, God?" into "I trust you anyway." So today, don't just listen to this message, live it, let it go. And let God take over. This is not the end. This is the beginning of peace. This is where healing starts. Letting go is not giving up. It's surrendering to God's plan. This is one of the most misunderstood truths in the journey of faith. So many people confuse surrender with weakness. They think if they stop fighting, if they let go, if they stop trying to control every outcome, they've failed. But in God's eyes, surrender isn't failure. It's trust, it's faith. It's choosing to believe that even when you don't see a way forward, God already has one prepared. When you hold on to your plans with a clenched fist, you're not giving God any room to move. You're saying, "God, I trust you, but only if you do it my way," and that's not trust at all. True surrender says, "God, even if it doesn't go the way I want, even if I don't understand the outcome, I trust that your way is higher, your thoughts are deeper, and your love for me is greater than I can comprehend." Letting go is an act of release. It's laying down the illusion of control that we so tightly grasp. We make plans, set goals, strategize for every outcome, and worry over every detail. But at the end of the day, we are not in control of life. Only God is. Letting go is not saying, "I quit." It's saying, "I give this to you, God, because you can handle what I cannot." There are seasons where holding on only increases the pain. When we try to force something that isn't working, when we try to control a relationship that's falling apart, or when we obsess over a future we cannot predict, we begin to carry a burden we were never meant to bear. That weight begins to crush us emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. God never intended for you to carry that kind of pressure. That's why Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Surrender is a step into rest. Not the kind of rest that means you stop caring, not laziness or passivity, but the kind of soul, deep peace that comes when you finally say, "God, this is yours." You let go of the outcome. You let go of trying to manipulate the situation. You stop wrestling with anxiety and start walking in faith. That's when the shift begins. That's when healing has room to come in. That's when God begins to do what only He can do. But make no mistake, letting go is hard. It takes courage to release what you think you can control. It takes humility to admit you can't do it on your own. It's scary to put the future in God's hands when you don't know what He's going to do. But faith is not about knowing the plan, it's about trusting the planner. It's about believing that His purpose will prevail even when the path looks nothing like you expected. You may be holding on to something right now because you're afraid of what life will look like without it. Maybe it's a job, a relationship, a dream, or even a version of your life that you thought would happen by now. But the truth is, Sometimes God allows certain things to fall apart so that better things can come together. Sometimes He has to empty your hands before He can fill them. And if you never let go, you'll never have room for what's next. Letting go opens the door to growth. It makes space for transformation. It invites God to step in and do what you never could. And even though it might feel like you're losing something, what you're actually gaining is far more powerful: peace, clarity, freedom, and alignment with God's will. There's no safer place to be than in the center of God's plan, and you only find that place through surrender. The world will tell you to hold on, to push harder, to fight for what you want at all costs. But the Spirit whispers something different. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." It says, "Those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength." It says, "My grace is sufficient for you." When you surrender, you're not stepping back. You're stepping into something greater. You're releasing the illusion of control and embracing the reality of divine guidance. Letting go is the doorway to real peace. It's where anxiety ends and faith begins. It's where striving stops and grace takes over. Worry doesn't change tomorrow, but it steals today's peace. It's the thief that often goes unnoticed, slipping into your thoughts in the quiet hours of the night, whispering lies that sound like truth. It convinces you that if you just think harder, plan more, run through every possible outcome, you can prevent the worst from happening. But the reality is, worry has never prevented a crisis. It has never solved a problem. It only drains your energy, clouds your judgment, and robs you of the very peace God freely offers. People often think worry is a sign of being responsible. They feel like if they don't worry about their children, their finances, their future, then they're not taking life seriously. But worry doesn't equal wisdom. It's not preparation. It's fear disguised as control. It's believing that if you can just think about it long enough, you'll somehow fix it. But worry doesn't lead to clarity. It leads to chaos. It doesn't lead to answers. It leads to anxiety. Jesus knew how deeply worry affects the human heart. That's why He addressed it directly. He didn't say, "Try not to worry," or "worry a little less." He said, "Do not worry about tomorrow." He wasn't suggesting it, He was commanding it, not because He was being harsh, but because He knew what worry does to the soul. It distracts, it disturbs, and it disconnects us from God's presence. Every moment you spend worrying is a moment you miss being fully alive in the present. It's a moment stolen from joy, from peace, from intimacy with God. Worry keeps your mind in the future, but your life is happening now. Your children are growing now. Your relationships are being shaped now. Your purpose is unfolding now. But worry tricks you into living in a place that doesn't even exist tomorrow. And because of that, it robs you of what matters most: this moment, this breath, this opportunity to trust God today. You may think that worrying proves how much you care, but God doesn't need your stress to accomplish His plan. What He wants is your surrender. He wants your heart fully present, not entangled in fear over a future He already holds. Worry is like running on a treadmill. It feels like movement, but you're not going anywhere. You're just exhausting yourself in place. Meanwhile, God is waiting for you to step off and walk with Him instead. There's nothing wrong with planning. God gives us wisdom for a reason, but there's a difference between planning and panicking, between preparing and obsessing. Healthy planning acknowledges that God is in control. Worry believes that everything hinges on you, and that belief will wear you down mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. That's not the life God designed for you. You weren't created to carry the weight of the unknown. You were created to walk in daily dependence on God, one step at a time, one day at a time. He gives you what you need for today, not tomorrow, just today. That's why His mercies are new every morning. That's why He taught us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." He's not asking you to figure out the rest of your life today. He's asking you to trust him today, just today, and maybe you're worn out because you've been trying to live tomorrow's battles with today's strength. But grace doesn't come early. Peace doesn't arrive in advance. They show up when you need them. Worry tells you they won't be there. Faith says they always are. You have survived every hard day before this one, and not because of worry, but because of God's faithfulness. The same God who brought you through yesterday is already in tomorrow. He's already preparing the provision. He's already working behind the scenes. So take your eyes off the storm that hasn't even come yet. Stop rehearsing disaster. Stop carrying burdens that aren't yours to bear. You're not in control of what happens next, but you are in control of what you believe right now. And if you choose to believe that God is for you, that He's not leaving you, that He's writing a better story than your fears are telling you, then you can reclaim your peace, not someday, but today. Worry doesn't change tomorrow, but it steals today's peace. We spend so much of our lives mentally living in the future, imagining worst-case scenarios, playing out situations that haven't even happened, trying to anticipate every possible outcome. We think that by worrying, we're somehow protecting ourselves. We believe that if we just think about it long enough, if we stress enough, maybe we can control it. But the truth is, worry has never solved a single problem. It doesn't prepare you for tomorrow. It robs you of today. Worry is a thief. It creeps in quietly and takes what's most valuable, your peace, your joy, your clarity. It clouds your thinking. It poisons your perspective. It causes you to miss what God is doing right now because you're too caught up in what might happen later. You become so focused on the what-ifs that you can't see the what-is. And that's exactly where the enemy wants you distracted, discouraged, and disconnected from the present moment where God is moving. When Jesus talked about worry in the Sermon on the Mount, He didn't just suggest we stop worrying. He commanded it. He said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." He wasn't saying ignore reality or be careless about the future. He was saying live one day at a time, trusting that God will provide what you need when you need it. You don't have the grace for tomorrow yet, because you're not there yet. God gives you grace for today. And when tomorrow comes, His grace will meet you there too. Worry is often rooted in the illusion that everything depends on us. We think, if I don't figure this out, it's going to fall apart. We forget that God is in control. We forget that He holds the future, not us. We forget that He sees the end from the beginning. And so, instead of resting in that truth, we torment ourselves with thoughts we were never meant to carry. There's a reason the Bible says, "Be anxious for nothing." It's because anxiety is not just a mental struggle, it's a spiritual one. Worry says, "God, I don't trust you to handle this." But faith says, even when I don't understand, I know you're still working. You can't live in peace and be consumed with worry at the same time. One will always push out the other, and you get to choose which one you allow to stay. Some people wear their worry like a badge of honor. They believe that caring deeply means they have to stress deeply, but caring is not the same as worrying. You can be deeply invested and still have peace. You can be fully engaged and still trust God. You don't have to live with a racing heart, a cluttered mind, and a restless soul. That's not God's will for you. He offers you peace that surpasses understanding, not peace that makes sense based on your circumstances, but peace that guards your heart in the middle of uncertainty. That kind of peace only comes when you let go of worry and cling to trust. It comes when you trade your anxious thoughts for His promises. It comes when you realize that worrying about tomorrow doesn't give you control. It just takes away the gift of today. Today is a gift. It's a day you'll never get back. And when you spend it drowning in anxiety about things that haven't even happened yet, you miss the beauty, the lessons, the blessings that are right in front of you. God is present right now. He's speaking, moving, guiding, but worry will keep you from hearing Him. Peace is not found in having all the answers. It's found in knowing the one who does. When you shift your focus from what might go wrong to the one who is always right on time, everything changes. Your mind quiets, your spirit calms, you begin to experience the stillness that only comes from trust. Trust is built in the dark, not in the light. It's easy to have faith when everything is going well, when the doors are opening, when the answers are clear, when the blessings are flowing. But real trust is forged in the hidden places, in the waiting rooms of life, in the silence where it feels like God is nowhere to be found. It's in those moments, when nothing makes sense, that your trust is tested, shaped, and strengthened. Darkness doesn't always mean you've done something wrong. Sometimes it means God is preparing you for something greater. When everything around you feels uncertain, when you can't see the next step, that's when trust becomes real. Because trust isn't about seeing the path, it's about following the guide. It's not about understanding the plan, it's about believing in the one who made it. And that kind of faith can only grow in the dark. In the light, you walk by sight, you move confidently because everything is visible, but in the dark, you walk by faith. You take steps not because you know where you're going, but because you know who you're following. That's where trust deepens, not when you can predict the outcome, but when you choose to keep going without one. Think about how seeds grow. They're buried in dirt, hidden from the light, completely surrounded by darkness. But it's in that soil, under pressure and out of sight, that transformation happens. Roots take hold, growth begins. The same is true for your trust. It grows in the dirt of life, the places no one sees, the places that don't feel comfortable, the moments that don't feel good. And yet, that's where the foundation of your faith is established. Trusting God in the dark is choosing to say, even when I don't feel you, I know you're with me. It's declaring, even when I don't understand, I believe you have a purpose. It's standing on the truth that God's presence is not proven by how things feel, but by who He is. He is faithful, He is constant, He is working, even in silence. Some of the greatest spiritual breakthroughs happen after seasons of darkness. It's in the nights of doubt, the hours of unanswered prayer, and the days of quiet desperation that your roots grow deeper, and when the light comes again, and you'll discover that your trust has matured. You'll look back and realize that what felt like abandonment was actually preparation. What felt like silence was a setup for something greater than you could imagine. You can't microwave trust. You can't rush the process. God often allows darkness not to punish you, but to develop you. Because if your faith is only strong when life is easy, it's not faith at all. But when you trust Him in the pain, in the waiting, in the confusion, that's the kind of faith that moves mountains. That's the kind of trust that doesn't crumble under pressure. There's something sacred about trusting God with what you don't understand. It's a quiet strength. It's not loud or flashy. It's not always visible to others. But it's powerful because it's in those unseen moments, when your heart is breaking, when the prayers seem unanswered, when you're still showing up with tears in your eyes, that you're building a kind of trust that no storm can shake. God never wastes a dark season. He uses it to refine, to strengthen, to purify. He uses it to strip away your dependence on things that won't last so that you'll anchor your hope in Him alone. And the beauty is, even in the darkest night, you are never alone. He walks with you, He holds you, He whispers promises even when you can't hear them yet. Trust is not a feeling, it's a choice, a daily decision to lean on God when your emotions say otherwise, a moment-by-moment surrender that says, I will not let go even here. And it's in the dark places, where the path disappears and the silence grows, that this choice becomes a lifeline, not because you see the way, but because you know the one who is the way. God's timing is always perfect, even when it feels late. There are moments in life when you feel like time is running out, when the clock is ticking and the breakthrough still hasn't come. You've prayed, you've waited, you've believed, but heaven feels silent. Doors remain closed, the answers you hoped for are nowhere in sight, and you begin to wonder, did God forget about me? But what feels like delay to you is often divine timing in disguise. We live in a world that glorifies speed. We want answers now, results today, solutions instantly, but God operates on a different calendar. His timeline is not based on urgency, it's based on preparation. Sometimes he delays not to deny you, but to develop you. He knows what's ahead, he sees the full picture. While you're focused on the moment, he's preparing the miracle. While you're pacing the floor, he's positioning the pieces. The waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are sacred places where your character is refined, your faith is stretched, and your dependence on God is deepened. You may not see it happening on the surface, but in the background, God is aligning circumstances, shifting hearts, and making a way where there was none. The wait is where he does his quietest yet most powerful work. Think about the people in Scripture. Joseph waited years in prison for a promise that seemed forgotten. Abraham waited decades for the child God had promised. David was anointed king, but spent years running in caves before he ever wore a crown. Jesus himself waited 30 years before starting his ministry. If their lives teach us anything, it's this: delay is not denial. What God has spoken, he will do, but it will be in his time, not yours. You see, if God gave you the blessing before you were ready, it might crush you instead of bless you. He loves you too much to give it too soon. The delay could be his mercy protecting you from something you can't yet see. Or it could be that he's using the wait to grow something in you that success never could: humility, patience, endurance, trust. Because when you finally receive what you've been waiting for, you'll know it wasn't your effort, your connections, or your strength. It was God. Waiting also breaks our addiction to control. It teaches us that we're not the ones in charge, and that's a good thing. Because if everything depended on your timing, your strength, and your ability, you'd live in constant pressure. But when you truly trust God's timing, you learn to breathe again. You learn to rest in knowing that if it hasn't happened yet, it doesn't mean it won't. It just means he's still working. Every delay has a divine purpose. Sometimes it's to protect you. Sometimes it's to position you. Sometimes it's to prepare the people around you. And sometimes it's simply so that when the blessing comes, God gets the glory, not you. Because when it happens after every door was shut, after every resource dried up, after every option failed, you'll know it was him. The enemy wants you to believe that silence means abandonment. He wants you to think that God's delay means he's forgotten you. But the truth is, your Father is never late. He's not slow. He's strategic. He's intentional. He's precise. And he knows exactly what he's doing, even when you don't. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to cry. It's okay to wonder why it's taking so long. But don't walk away. Don't give up right before the breakthrough. You may be closer than you think. Sometimes the darkest part of the night is just before the dawn, and what feels like a standstill may actually be the setup for something greater than you ever imagined. Faith begins where control ends. As long as you're holding tightly to the reins of your life, as long as you're insisting on knowing every detail, managing every outcome, and fixing every situation, you're not walking by faith, you're walking by control. And control feels safe, but it's a false sense of safety. It's a wall you build to protect yourself from fear, but in reality, it's the very thing that's holding you back from experiencing the fullness of God's power in your life. Real faith is not about having all the answers. It's not about predicting the outcome. It's about releasing your grip on what you cannot change and trusting the one who holds it all together. It's when you reach the end of your own strength, your own logic, your own ability to manage the chaos, and you say, God, I can't, but you can. That's the moment where faith truly begins. Faith thrives in surrender. It grows in the soil of uncertainty. It's not birthed in perfect conditions, but in impossible situations. When you run out of solutions, when the door won't open, when your plans fall apart, that's where faith steps in. Because faith doesn't depend on evidence, it depends on confidence in who God is, and you only find that kind of confidence when you finally let go of the need to control. We often don't realize how tightly we hold on to control until something forces us to release it. A diagnosis, a job loss, a broken relationship, a situation that brings us to our knees, and in those moments we come face to face with our limitations. We see how little we can actually do on our own. That's not a moment of failure. It's a holy invitation. It's God saying, now that you've come to the end of yourself, watch what I can do. The life of faith is not passive. It's not sitting back and doing nothing. It's active trust. It's saying, God, I'm going to take the step, even though I can't see the whole staircase. It's moving forward not because you know the outcome, but because you know the one who does. It's walking into uncertainty with confidence, not in yourself, but in Him. There is freedom in letting go. When you stop trying to control what's not yours to control, you make room for peace. You make room for miracles. You make room for divine intervention. As long as you're holding the steering wheel, you limit the direction. But when you hand it over to God, you open the door for Him to take you places you could never go on your own. God isn't asking you to understand everything. He's asking you to trust Him through everything. He's not waiting for you to figure it all out. He's waiting for you to surrender what you can't, and the moment you do, you'll feel the shift. The burden lifts, the pressure fades, and you begin to realize that faith isn't something you force. It's something you step into when control is no longer an option. Faith is risky. It requires courage. It means walking with unanswered questions, trusting with unfinished prayers, and believing in unseen promises. But it's in that very risk that you discover the power of God, because He doesn't move when we're in control. He moves when we let go. That's where the impossible becomes possible. That's where mountains move. That's where peace replaces panic. Control is exhausting. Faith is freeing. Control drains you. Faith sustains you. Control keeps you stuck. Faith moves you forward, and the truth is, God never designed you to carry the weight of control. He designed you to walk by faith, because it's not your job to know how. It's your job to believe anyway. Peace isn't found in the absence of trouble. It's found in the presence of God. Life won't always make sense. Storms will come, relationships will break, plans will fall through, and dreams will feel delayed or even destroyed. But peace is not about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening within you. It's not something the world can give, and it's certainly not something the world can take away. True peace is a gift from God, planted deep in the soul of those who choose to trust Him. Even when nothing around them changes, we often think we'll feel peace when the problem is solved, the question is answered, or the path is clear. But peace doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It shows up in hospital rooms. It visits during long nights of prayer. It sustains you when your heart is breaking. God's peace isn't circumstantial, it's supernatural. It transcends what's happening, and it guards your heart when your mind is under attack. The enemy knows that if he can't destroy your future, he'll try to disrupt your present. He'll fill your thoughts with fear, your heart with doubt, and your mind with confusion. That's why Scripture says the peace of God guards your heart and mind. Peace isn't passive, it's protective. It fights for you. It keeps you steady when everything else is shaking. It reminds you that God is still on the throne, even when your world feels like it's falling apart. You don't have to understand the battle to rest in the victory. That's the power of peace. It says, I don't have to see how this ends to believe it's going to be okay. It lets you breathe again. It quiets the noise. It turns your heart back toward hope. Peace is what lets you sing in the storm, smile through the tears, and keep walking when you feel weak. It's not fake strength. It's real faith. Peace often comes in stillness. Not in loud declarations, but in quiet surrender. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up when you stop striving, stop analyzing, stop rehearsing every possible outcome, and just sit with God. Sometimes you don't need a solution, you just need His presence. That's enough. That's always been enough. When you realize peace isn't something you create but something you receive, everything changes. You stop trying to control everything. You stop needing every answer. You stop exhausting yourself trying to fix things only God can heal, and you start resting in the fact that you are held. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. The same God who calmed the storm with a word is the one who calms your soul with His Spirit. You are not created to carry constant tension. That's why anxiety wears you down and peace builds you up. God didn't design you to live on edge. He designed you to live rooted in Him, not shaken by news reports, not consumed by timelines, not overwhelmed by the unknown, but grounded, anchored, steady. That's the power of divine peace. It doesn't change with the wind. It stands when nothing else does. And the beautiful truth is, you don't have to wait for things to be perfect to access it. Peace is available now, right here, right in the middle of the chaos, not because everything is okay, but because God is here, and when He is here, peace is possible. Even in the most painful places, you can breathe again. You can rest again. You can trust again, not because of what you see, but because of who you know, and He is faithful. He is near, and He is not finished with your story. Peace isn't the end of the storm. It's the presence of God in the middle of it.